Have you ever felt like you're being watched, even when you seem to be alone? Today, we'll explore 8 dangerous signs that could indicate a spiritual force is watching you. Signs that many ignore, but which can have profound implications for your life and well-being. From unexplained sensations of cold indoors to the appearance of fleeting shadows in the corner of your eye, these phenomena could be more than just coincidences. Is your home making strange sounds? What about those moments when you feel like someone called your name, but no one was around? Get ready to embark on a journey that defies normal comprehension as we unravel each of these signs. We'll not only reveal how to spot them, but also discuss what to do if you really are being watched by something beyond our world. Stay with us and find out if you are at risk, and how to protect yourself from these invisible forces that may be closer than you think. Please confirm by activating notifications and subscribing to the channel, and from now on you will be surprised by the 8 dangerous signs that you are being watched by a spiritual force. First sign: sensation of intense heat with no explanation. Have you ever experienced a wave of sudden, intense and unexplained heat coursing through your body? In the biblical context, such manifestations can be much more than simple climatic fluctuations or physiological responses. They can be the touch of something divine and deeply spiritual. Fire in Scripture is often a powerful symbol of the divine. Think of Moses and the burning bush, where God manifested himself not as destruction, but as revelation. Or the prophet Elijah, who called down fire from heaven as proof of the Lord's sovereignty and unquestionable presence. These moments are not merely stories. They are echoes of a divine pattern, showing that heat, especially the unexplainable kind, can be a sign of purification, of calling, and most intensely, of vigilance. The sensation of intense heat with no visible source can therefore be interpreted as a moment of spiritual confrontation. You are being watched, but not by human eyes. You are under the gaze of a presence that transcends our worldly understanding. This presence, although invisible, communicates through heat, like a craftsman who refines his metal in the fire, purifying what was considered impure, strengthening what is fragile, and preparing the spirit for greater revelations. Imagine that this heat is a kind of call, a call to something greater than the daily grind. How would you respond if you knew that each heat wave was an invitation to delve deeper into the spiritual realm, to understand the mysteries hidden within, and perhaps receive a mission? But be careful, because the heat. The spiritual test is also a test. It burns the chaff, separating the gold from the dross. In the book of Daniel, we find the story of the 3 men thrown into the fiery furnace, who emerged not only unharmed, but accompanied by a 4th figure, divine and protective. Thus, this feeling of warmth can be a precursor to a profound spiritual transformation, indicating that you are not only being watched, but also protected and purified. This spiritual observation is not to be feared, but to be understood. In a world where the physical often dominates, such signs remind us that there is more between heaven and earth than our limited vision can perceive. Heat is a reminder, a divine spark, a whisper of the eternal that burns within the temporal. Every time from today onwards, whenever you feel this warmth, stop and reflect. Open your heart and mind to the possibility that you are facing a manifestation of the divine. It may be a call to action, a necessary purification, or a simple reminder of that at all times we are within sight and reach of the spiritual. Second sign: appearance of unusual lights. Similarly, when angels appeared to figures such as Abraham, Moses, or even Mary, the mother of Jesus, these apparitions were accompanied by a supernatural clarity. Such accounts describe not only the vision, but also the feeling of being in the presence of something sacred and tremendously powerful. What if today, in our daily lives, we were faced with such manifestations? Sparkling lights or orbs that appear and disappear in the brevity of a blink. Could these be signs of angelic observation? Imagine yourself in a moment of distress, perhaps during a solitary walk or in the silence of a room at night, when suddenly an orb of light appears. At first, you might think of mundane explanations, a reflection, a trick of the eye. However, the light persists, moving with intention, with purpose. It is not invasive, but you feel its warmth, its energy. This moment is not an accident of perception. It is a contact, a communication. These lights, ancient traditions say, are manifestations of angels who observe, guide, and sometimes intervene in our lives. They are messengers from a larger reality, sent to remind us that we are not alone, that each moment of our existence is immersed in a broader spiritual context. Such apparitions can serve as comfort in moments of despair, as a guide at life's crossroads, or as a wake-up call to higher realities. In times of great decision or difficulty, these lights can be a sign that a heavenly presence is with you, watching, protecting, and sometimes guiding you. Third sign, changes in the scent of the environment. Be it your home or a place where you often seek refuge and peace. Suddenly, the environment is filled with a distinct scent, not identifiable as something mundane, but as an essence that seems to elevate the space to the divine. This phenomenon is not just a sensory detail, but a vehicle of deep spiritual communication, as suggested by several biblical passages. The Bible, replete with symbolism and meaning, often associates scents with divine presences and messages. Incense, for example, is used in sacred rituals as a means for prayers to ascend to heaven, visible in the smoke that rises and disperses into the air. This symbolic gesture unites the physical with the spiritual, the human with the divine. When unexpected aromas permeate your surroundings, think of it as a tangible manifestation of heavenly attention, a sign that you are not only being noticed but also heard. Consider the story of Mary, the sister of Lazarus, who anointed Jesus' feet with pure nard, an expensive and intensely scented perfume. The fragrance filled the entire house, leaving an indelible mark on both the attendants and the biblical narrative. This act was not just a demonstration of love and devotion, it was a prophetic announcement of Jesus' imminent death and preparation for burial. Just as this perfume filled the room, spiritual scents can indicate a preparation, a presence, a harbinger of something transcendent that is about to happen. When an unusual and pleasant aroma infiltrates your space, it can be a divine message of comfort or calling. Perhaps it is an invitation to reflect on your spiritual practices, a reminder that your prayers are being carried to heaven, or even a sign that angels are present, their invisible wings beating in a heavenly rhythm, dispersing fragrances from the Garden of Eden. These scents, then, are not only perceived by the nose, but also by the spirit. They can bring about a profound change in the heart and soul, inspiring peace, evoking memory, and cultivating an awareness of the sacredness of each moment. In a world where the tangible often dominates, such olfactory experiences are portals to the invisible, bridges to the ineffable. Fourth sign, animals behaving strangely. Animals figure prominently in biblical narratives, not only as creatures of God, but also as bearers of messages and indicators of divine presence. Consider the dove sent by Noah, which returned with an olive branch, signaling the end of the flood and the renewal of life on earth. Or Balaam's donkey, which saw the angel of the Lord on its path and refused to go on, saving its master from divine wrath. These are not mere incidents. They are testaments to the ability of animals to perceive what is often hidden from human eyes. In our daily lives, animals continue to act as sensitive receivers of the spiritual energies that surround us. Have you ever noticed your pet staring into an empty corner of the room, as if seeing something beyond the reach of your own perception? Or perhaps, in moments of loneliness or sadness, he approaches you with an inexplicable affection, as if he deeply understands the weight of your emotions. These behaviors may be signs that they are detecting the presence of something spiritual. In the Bible, angels often appear accompanied by natural phenomena, winds, fire, and sometimes through animals themselves. So when your dog barks for no apparent reason, or your cat stares intently at a point where nothing can be seen, they may be responding to the presence of spiritual beings invisible to human eyes. This special sensitivity of animals is also reflected in their ability to act in a protective manner. They often take on the role of guardians not only of the physical, but also of the spiritual. At times when spiritual forces are present, some pets may behave in a more alert or protective manner, as if they were guarding their owners from possible negative influences or unseen dangers. If at some point during the day you stop and notice that your pet is acting in an unusual way, consider what this could mean. They could be sensing changes in the spiritual environment around them that you, with your human limitations, cannot perceive. This behavior may be an invitation to pay closer attention to your own spiritual and emotional environment, to discover what lies beyond the veil of ordinary reality. Fifth sign, sudden change in temperature. There are times in life when there are storms and calms, when there are heat and cold, that are not mere changes in the weather, but echoes of a deeper and more powerful reality. Think of the prophet Elijah on Mount Carmel, challenging the prophets of Baal with fire that fell from heaven, a divine sign of presence and power. Or consider Jonah in his flight from God, finding himself in a storm that was not just a natural phenomenon, but a physical manifestation of divine persecution. When we experience sudden and inexplicable changes in the temperature of our own environment, we may find ourselves, consciously or unconsciously, on the periphery of an encounter as prophetic as those described in Scripture. These fluctuations can be subtle or dramatic, a chill running down the spine, a stifling heat in a previously cool room, and can be understood as signs of a spiritual presence that is watching, intervening, making itself known. Consider the meaning of these variations. In the biblical context, cold often symbolizes moments of spiritual purification and renewal, while heat can denote purification, testing, and sometimes the comforting presence of God. Thus, a sudden drop in temperature can be an invitation to reflect, to turn inward, to consider aspects of life that need renewal or redemption. On the other hand, a sudden increase can be a call to action, an encouragement to eliminate impurities, to act with courage and determination. These changes are not just coincidences of the weather. They carry messages, each breath of wind, each wave of heat, an unspoken word, a communication from the divine. At such moments, the veil between the natural and the supernatural seems to thin, allowing us to sense for a brief moment the intensity of forces that normally remain hidden. Imagine yourself in a moment of introspection, perhaps reading scripture or praying, when suddenly your surroundings seem to respond to your spiritual state. This response may be comforting or disconcerting, but it will always be revealing. How should we respond to such a signal? The response requires an open heart and a spirit willing to listen and interpret the nuances of these manifestations. Sixth sign, a feeling of being watched, but with peace. Imagine a moment in your life when, against all expectations, a feeling of inexplicable calm comes over you. Circumstances around you may not be conducive to such serenity. The outside world may even scream with the chaos of daily fears and worries. But within you, there is a stillness, a sense of being watched by eyes that not only see, but also guard and protect. This experience can be compared to many biblical moments where the divine presence is marked not by tumult, but by peace. Take, for example, the story of Daniel in the lion's den. Surrounded by wild beasts, one would expect fear to take over, but Daniel remains calm, protected by the presence of God who shuts the lions' mouths. Or consider the visit of the angel to Mary, the mother of Jesus. The news he brings could easily have created panic, but instead he begins his words with, "Do not be afraid," infusing the situation with divine peace and purpose. Feeling peacefully watched over can be an indication that you are under the protection of something much greater than the visible earthly guards. It is a sign that angels may be present in your life, assigned by God to watch over and intercede on your behalf. These spiritual beings described throughout Scripture are often associated with the protection of the faithful, acting as messengers and guardians in times of danger or decision. Therefore, when this peculiar feeling of being peacefully watched over you, it is a time to reflect on the nature of this watchfulness. Unlike human watchfulness, which can be flawed and even invasive, divine watchfulness is always marked by pure intention and perfect execution. It does not suffocate, but liberates. It does not intimidate, but strengthens. If you experience this feeling, it may be an invitation to deepen your connection with the divine. It may be an opportunity to seek to better understand who these heavenly guardians are and how they operate in your life. Could there be messages that are being subtly delivered? Are there areas in your life where you need to surrender more, trust more, and perhaps open yourself more to spiritual guidance? In a world that often values independence to the point of isolation, knowing that one is being peacefully watched over by heavenly entities is a powerful reminder that we are not alone. We are, in fact, immersed in a reality that is both spiritual and material, surrounded not only by challenges, but also by constant spiritual support. Seventh sign, gentle voices and comforting words in the silence. You seek advice, but none seems adequate or sufficient. Then, in a rare moment of complete silence, clarity emerges, a gentle voice that seems to speak directly to your soul, dispelling fears and illuminating the way with wisdom that transcends your usual understanding. This voice, which comes from a deep silence, may be the spiritual presence of God or His angels, watching over and guiding you through life's challenges. This divine communication is not a loud phenomenon. It is gentle and subtle, inviting those who hear it to enter a state of receptivity and reflection. Just as the comforting words came to Elijah, they come to us, not as an imposition, but as a gentle whisper capable of penetrating the most rigid defenses and touching the innermost core of our being. Why then do these voices arise in the silence? It is in silence that the noise of the world is drowned out and distraction gives way to concentration. In silence, our minds become still enough to perceive what is normally overshadowed by the chaos of everyday life. It is here that the divine finds space to manifest itself, where the sacred messages that constantly surround us can finally be heard. If you find yourself listening to these still voices and comforting words when all else seems to fail, see this as a spiritual danger. Ask yourself, what are these voices trying to tell you? What message is being conveyed? And most importantly, how can you respond to this subtle call? This may be the work of evil trying to destroy its fruits. Eighth sign, synchronistic events and repeated coincidences. Synchronic events and repeated so-called coincidences arise like knots of meaning waiting to be unraveled. In the biblical narrative, these patterns are not seen as mere happenstance, but as a divine method of communication, a silent language that God uses to guide, warn, and confirm. Consider the story of Gideon and the dew on the fleece. where he asks God not once but twice for a clear sign to continue his battle against the Midianites. These requests are not made out of doubt, but rather in search of confirmation. In response, God manipulates the dew, first soaking the fleece while the ground remains dry, and then reversing the phenomenon. These events were not coincidences, but meticulously orchestrated divine signs. Now imagine that you begin to notice numbers repeating with astonishing frequency. Perhaps you see the same number on clocks, license plates, documents, or perhaps similar messages begin to reach you through books, conversations, and even social media posts. These moments may seem, at first glance, pure coincidence. However, in the light of Scripture, such repetitions may be the echo of a heavenly voice trying to capture your attention. What if, like Gideon, you are faced with significant decisions and these coincidences begin to align? Perhaps it is an invitation to pause and deeply consider the direction of your life. It can be a signal to reevaluate your priorities, reconsider your path, or confirm that your current path is indeed blessed and ordered. These synchronistic events are like cobblestones that pave the less traveled path of active spirituality. They are not mere coincidences, but rather guiding stars in a dark night, guiding spiritual travelers through deserts of uncertainty to oases of clarity and purpose. When perceived and interpreted correctly, these signs can transform the spiritual journey, offering confirmation and solace that only the divine can provide. So when you encounter these repetitions in your life, consider yourself engaged in a divine conversation. You are being given the opportunity to tune into a higher frequency, to perceive the work of the unseen hands that shape the events around you. Each repeated coincidence is a thread pulling back the veil that separates the earthly from the heavenly, revealing not only the presence of spiritual forces, but also their active involvement in your life. To close our video on the 8 dangerous signs that you are being watched by a spiritual force, let's reflect on the importance of paying attention to the signs around us and in our own intuition. If you have felt a presence, experienced strange sensations, or noticed unexplained changes in your environment, it is essential to connect with your spirituality and seek to understand what this may mean.